There are 88 possible notes on the piano. Oh my. How can we let other people know how far apart notes are without having to say, move up 7 half steps? Because that's a little much, right? In this video, I'm going to show you how to find second and third intervals on the piano. These are the first intervals that we teach students, but I'm also going to teach you a little bit about how these relate to those scales and chords that we have been doing in this beginner series. If we haven't met before, I'm Rosemarie Penner, online piano teacher and composer at Must Love Music. Have you ever been in a situation where the topic or whatever it is you're learning, it just is going completely over your head? You may have even been left wondering if this is for beginners. Is it really worth starting? Is it really worth the frustration? I know that I've been in that situation and it is no fun at all. So as always, in this beginner series, you're going to be building on the learning from the previous videos. Not only do you get a peek into what it's like in my studio and what piano lessons are like with me, it also follows best practices in terms of how we learn the most effectively. We want to keep it simple, make it fun, and make it interactive. What are intervals? This is how we describe how far apart notes or pitches are when we're playing them on the piano or really any instrument, and also when we see them in music. If you've watched our previous videos on scales, by the way, link above or even in the description, you've seen two types of these intervals already. We just called them by a different name. Now, since this series is strictly focused on getting you playing piano as quickly as possible, we're not going to be covering the sheet music part of it. So what are second intervals? We're combining major versus minor, so something we looked at when it came to scales and chords, as well as half versus whole steps. And we've been looking at those kind of throughout the process as well. A minor second is the smallest possible interval that we can have. A minor second is actually just a half step. Now, a major second has a whole step. We learned a whole step is 2 half steps. Often we call a second interval a step when we're first starting out with piano students, and that's because it looks like you're stepping on the piano. And there's 2 examples of this that you may have heard before. Flight of the Bumblebees, there is lots of minor second intervals in this, and it travels very quickly up and down the piano to create that iconic buzzing sound. If you love listening to jazz or blues music, then you have probably heard combinations of minor seconds and minor thirds as well. And the reason that they're used so commonly in this particular genre is it creates that walking bass line from chord to chord, or that stepping as we call it. So what do second intervals look like on the piano? Well, let's start off with our minor second. If we start with C, all we do is go up a half step, keep going up. Oh my goodness, now what happens if we have a white key instead of a black key? We actually just go from here. So E to F is actually a minor second. You can play this fairly quickly on the piano by using your 1 finger, your thumb, or your 3 finger, your middle finger. We often, if we want to do this quickly, and of course, you can go down as well. If you've got 2 black keys together, you're probably going to start with your 2 finger. I would highly recommend just make sure you pause as needed. Try this out on the piano. For major second intervals, so remember these are slightly larger, we've now got a whole step. Let's start with F this time. We're going to go up 2 half steps or a whole step, whole step, whole step, and then whole step. So this sounds a little different than our normal scale. We often have combinations of these, right? If we start on F, it definitely sounded a little bit different. Our F major scale that we've played in the past is, and that's a combination of major second intervals, so F to G, or minor second intervals like A to B flat. Test this out, try out different combinations, and I'm really curious. If you do a few of the minor second intervals, were you able to create that buzzing bumblebee sound that is iconic from Flight of the Bumblebees? Now, what are third intervals? We went from our minor second, which was our smallest possible interval on a piano. Major second, slightly larger. I think you can guess. Our minor third is going to be a little bit larger, and major third will be a little bit larger than that. Minor third, again, it's our third smallest interval that we can have. Actually, what's cool about the third intervals, both minor and major, they tell us whether or not a chord is major or minor. This is actually the interval that does it for us. And it also can let us know if a song is in a major or minor key. So super important. Let's take a look at what third intervals look like on the piano. There's two ways to find out a minor third. One of them is using a combination of whole and half steps. Let's go with A this time. Let's do a whole step plus a half step. That's one way. Or the other way is doing two major seconds, so, and then go down a half step. So it depends on whatever way works best for you, but and you can do this really from the bottom of the piano all the way to the top, and it'll end up being a combination of white and black keys. A major third, it's really just two whole steps. So let's go back to that A. So here's our whole step and whole step. What if we go from C? Whole step, whole step. So notice these sound slightly different, right? A minor, A major, C minor, C major. Now I'm curious, as you're testing these out, are you hearing chords or are you hearing melody, or maybe a combination of both? Before you go on to the rest of the video, pause, try this out. You can start on any key. You could even start on, say, this F sharp here. What I didn't go through with our second intervals is that you can play these notes at the same time, just like you would a chord. Let me know, are you hearing them as chords or are you hearing them as a melody? Second and third intervals. First of all, intervals are a way of describing how far apart notes are. It's a shorthand. Second intervals are often called steps, and third intervals are often called skips because we're skipping on the piano or we're stepping on the piano. Well, not stepping on the piano. We're stepping from note to note. Both of these types of intervals, and actually any kind of interval, can have major or minor versions. To jumpstart your piano playing, be sure to check the description for the link so that you can start your lessons today in an easy, fun, and interactive way. Do you prefer second or third intervals? Or do you have maybe more questions about our second and third intervals? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next week